Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Hayfrosells. I am Hayfro, and I just got done listening to the earnings call, and I took some notes, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about things that stood out to me. Yeah, I mean, I'm not one that I don't normally listen to conference calls. A year ago, this would have been the last thing that I ever thought I was doing, is listening to an eBay conference call. I really could have cared. I never paid attention to the stock price prior to April 1st of last year. But yeah, that's what we're going to do today. And I think I had a few questions, and yeah, we're just going to, and I'm going to be on Primo's channel tomorrow. We're going to be doing a live at 10 a.m. my time, Pacific Standard Time. I think I got that right. And yeah, and the key to remember here with the earnings is, like I said, I'm not one to really dive deep into the numbers, because these are just numbers. Like, we don't really know what they mean. We won't really know what they mean until, a few days after, let Wall Street digest it, and then watch what they do. And if, I know the stock initially started to rally. I think it was up over like 5.5% after hours, right when the earnings dropped. And then let's see where it's at now. It's up like maybe 3% now. So I think it was up at the high like $2.55. Now it's at $1.86. But trading after hours can be very, very misleading. Volume, liquidity issues, a very small amount of stock can actually cause the price to move if there's just a bunch of buyers. But then, how it opens tomorrow, how it closes tomorrow, how it trades over the next couple weeks, these are all things that, in my experience, when you're dealing with earnings can be very difficult to interpret just with the data, because I've seen blowout earnings, all-time high. This is the best earnings we've ever had, in the stock's tank, because it's always, well, okay, that happened last quarter. What are you going to do for me now? Right? Same thing. Companies have released the worst earnings they've ever had, and then the stock rallies. And lots of times that's because, maybe investors collectively feel like, okay, this is a low. This is the worst this company's going to do. They've got some things going on that lead us to believe that the stock is going to rebound. So any initial move, either way, it's not going to convince me that even if it tanked after hours, that doesn't mean that the news would be necessarily bearish, if that makes sense. Now, having said that, Jack wanted me to do a live and kind of listen to it, but after thinking about it, it would have just been, all of you watching me listening to the call. You guys would have been listening as well, but I don't know. I would have felt too much like a zoo animal, and I probably wouldn't have been able to concentrate as much on the actual call. And I was only kind of half concentrating, so I was kind of doing some listings and stuff. But I kind of wish we would have did that, and I wish we would have played like a drinking game, and every time. So back in college, we I mean, you play a lot of drinking games in college, right? But we had this one where, oh man, I can't even remember. What is the singer's name? Neil Diamond. We would watch a Neil Diamond movie, and every time he acted cool, you would have to drink. So I felt like the drinking game should have been like, every time Jamie says the word magical, we have to take a shot. And we would have been wasted. At least I would have been wasted by the end of the phone call, by the end of the conference call. So yeah. Here's the big news. The big news that I find shocking and angered by is, so I have a spreadsheet that I've been keeping track of the promoted listings quarter by quarter, and I'll turn this around and I'll show it to you guys. So they did. I wanted to know what was their quarterly revenue for promoted listings. $393 million, up from last quarter of 345. So, you know, that's a big jump. That's a lot of millions of dollars, which actually kind of surprised me, because I felt like Q4 would have been lighter, and which would have made the promoted listings by comparison lighter. Not the case. Now, I don't know if that means that people were just promoting at a higher rate, because the GMV was flat at 18.6 billion, I think. Yeah. So they're not selling more items. And I believe all of these figures, you know, don't exactly quote me on them. I did my best. I think promoted listings is 2.1% of GMV, which I don't know why it's lumped into GMV. I don't know. But I'm going to throw a number out there. And if this doesn't anger you, I don't know what will. So since they started keeping track of promoted listings and reporting them in the earnings in Q3 of 2019, that's the furthest back that I could find any information. So that's where I started this chart. If you add every quarter of how much they've made in promoted listings since doing it, it is $4 billion with a B. $4,193 million that they have made from their quote-unquote advertising, which is just simply, another way to put it, us paying for placement. That's all it is. Let's be honest with it. Almost $4.2 billion for making one tiny change in the algorithm, for not providing any extra value in the platform to the sellers, for basically charging us. Knowing what some people promote, nearly double of what they would pay in final value fees. And, you know, people who pay, 25% promoted listings, that would easily double what you would pay before if you were just paying a final value fee. So eBay has made $4.2 billion. They've taken that money away from resellers. So if you're wondering, oh man, why am I not making as much for doing the same thing that I was doing years ago? Why am I working, much harder than I was, and I'm making less money? It's because, it's not just the economy. It's eBay has found a very creative way to basically take more money from you and give you very little, if anything. In fact, some people would argue that the tactics that they've used to introduce promoted listings, introduce the changes in search, has actually taken away people's sales. They've taken away your sales. They've created this Hunger Game type mentality of, pitting seller versus seller in this upward reverse pyramid scheme of trying to promote, the race to the top with promoted listings. $4.2 billion. To me, when I added all that up, and I thought, wow. To me, that is shocking. Let me know what you guys think of that. So I'm going to give you a quick 30 to 45 second synopsis of the call. This is what I heard. Words, year over year. Words, magical, words, 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 neutral, words, 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 buyback, words, words, dividend, words, words, magical, words, enthusiastic buyer, words, words, free cash flow. Essentially, that's the call. Let's see here. Now, they did 1.4 billion last year in promoted listings in 2023. I don't know if these next two numbers are correct. Because they're throwing out a lot of numbers, and man, does Jamie talk fast. Like, he talks fast, like a used car salesman. And like, I really noticed it in the Q&A section when like one of the analysts for like an investment firm asked them a question, and Jamie asked a question, and then one of the other key people in management answered a question. And I really, at that point, I'm like, man, Jamie talked, like, I'm so distrusting of, you know, people that like talk too fast when they're throwing out data, when they're answering questions. So I think he said that there were 2.9 million sellers utilizing promoted listings, and that there are 900 million listings that have promoted listings on them. If those two numbers are correct, I can, if, and I think they are, I can see why they're so enthusiastic about, because in their minds, they see so much more money. They're like just salivating over trying to get the remaining sellers who have held off to get them to promote, whether it's you know, through suggestive mafia style tactics, or if they just force us to by raising the minimum. I mean, I feel like the minimum is going to be raised soon, whether it goes from 2 to 3, or from 2 to 5, you know, because they just might be like, you know what, we're going to get to 5 eventually. Let's just do it. Let's just do it now. Because if they go to 5, they'll know that some people will probably just, who are already promoting, will probably just go to 0. They'll just be like, you know what, I'm done. And they're trying to maybe capitalize on that, and you know, knowing that that's going to happen, so they want to make up that difference by forcing the people who are going to promote, who go from 2 to 5. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Yeah, it's, and then they also said something else. And I'm pretty certain that he was talking, well, I know he was talking about promoted listings, but he said something about the take rate in regards to promoted listings, that he sees it continually going up, 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 up. And I think he said that Jamie said he forecasts it to slow down in maybe the second quarter of 2025. Again, numbers were getting spewed out very fast, but I just thought, you know what, the take rate, that is exactly what they're doing. That's a very accurate way to describe it. Don't describe it as advertising, on-site advertising. Just describe it as like the take, right? Like whether it's the gamble, whether it's the casino mentality of the take, or the mafia style of the take. Because that's what they're doing, to the tune of over $4 billion. It had to have been the easiest $4 billion anybody could make. Because what did they do? What did they do for it? Changed a few things in the algorithm. So 2 billion listings on the platform, 900 million of them are utilizing promoted listings in some capacity. That is less than 5%. So it's no wonder that Jamie is so excited about promoted listings when they look at how much they've made currently. 4.2 billion, I'm going to stress that. And then they look at how how relatively small amount of the percentage of the seller base is utilizing them. And I am sure they're just, itching to raise that minimum. And, they're gonna, it is painfully evident that their strategy as a platform is focused on 3 key areas right now: financial services, their international shipping, and promoted listings. And of those 3, I have to believe internally they're probably the most optimistic on promoted listings. They should be they should be the most focused on international, because in theory you would think that having the opportunity for US, well, not just US, but like having the opportunity to open up your store internationally, you think would be massively huge. But I don't really see, or I've not heard of people who are like, oh man, ever since April or May, whenever the international shipping program was introduced, I don't really ever hear anybody saying about how good it is, how their sales internationally have greatly attributed to a spike in their own business. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, if there's people out there that are having like tremendous, if you've noticed like a tremendous increase in your international shipping, leave it in the comments. Because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I applaud eBay for rolling it out. Obviously, at the time, there were so many problems with it, and I don't utilize it because I have my own reasons, and I didn't really even see an increase in international shipping. And I actually feel like because of the way what they charge the consumer, the customer, how much they charge in shipping and handling, I feel like I can get a better shipping and handling rate, provide a better customer experience that way. But I think I thought in my mind that their strategy, and again, still too early to tell, because it's not that I wanted eBay's earnings to be bad. I didn't want that. I wanted it to be reflective that their strategy is not working, and to them their strategy is working. For sellers, it is a disaster in my opinion, and I think it's only going to get worse with promoted listings increases coming down the road. You know that they're gonna push that envelope higher based on how few people, and here's the thing is, as more and more people come online to promoted listings, the people who are promoting now, you will see a decline in your sales. 100%. And it's simple math, because they will have to put other people in front of you. They will have to put, they'll have to have impressions. They'll have to have more and more. So it's simple math. Your sales will go down. So I would probably say that people on YouTube are probably the early adapters of things that, because we talk, we share, and we are people who are actively trying to grow our business. Not that people who aren't on YouTube aren't, but people on YouTube have access to the collective. So the people who are on YouTube are the people who most people are promoting, and because out of necessity. But as the other 95% of listings, well, I forget how many sellers are on eBay right now. Okay, so there's 18 million sellers, 2.9 million sellers currently use promoted listings. So 16% of sellers are utilizing promoted listings. So as more and more, your earnings are going to go down. And again, this all comes back to the same message of we have to list our stuff other places. It's an essential. And like today, I sold something, and I'm gonna add this. It's just like a little 1-minute clip of something that I sold. It was listed on eBay. I actually got, in the video it says I got $25 for it. I actually got $30 for this item because this person is local, and they wanted me to drop it off at a bank. They work at a bank, which is like 5 minutes from my place, and I'm by that way anyhow. And so she actually gave me an extra $5 on top of what I was asking for just to do that. And that same listing was listed on eBay for $23. It was on sale, and yeah, you'll see it. But like today, I got an offer on a digital camera for $16 that I had priced at $32, and it was on sale. And as soon as I counter back at 30, like one just sold for 30 and mine was actually in better condition. I gave him what I thought was a deal at 30. I don't think he's going to accept it. But then I thought to myself, you know what? There's a perfectly good item that I should just list locally. And I'm doing that more and more, like as I get offers, and you know, it kind of reminds me of the inventory that I have. Like I've got, you know, I think I'm under 8,000 listings now. I think I peaked at 83, and my inventory is actually starting to decline. I find that interesting, partly because I'm listing more in other places, partly because I got to spend so much time either doing resets and it takes me away from listing, or you know, there's days where I just don't feel motivated to list on eBay. But anyhow, I am going off on a tangent. 16% of sellers promote. So there's you know, they probably want to get that number to 50% as fast as possible. The other thing that I thought was interesting that Jamie said was he thinks very highly of his organic search. Where is that note at? Okay, I was combining two thoughts. He's really high on this technology that they have of like replacing the background. So like if you are selling hiking shoes, you could like they're in beta testing mode where essentially instead of, you know how you can change it to a white background, well, you could put it on like a background on a mountain. He talked about that a couple different times. And then one of the questions in the Q&A, somebody from, I believe, Horizon was asking about somebody asking about the e-commerce Horizon in general. He asked them, you know, with the challenging environment, what are things that how is eBay going to counteract that? And Jamie just wholly didn't answer the question. Like he just danced all around it. But in it, he said something that I thought was pretty funny. He thinks very highly of his organic traffic. And he says that the majority of traffic is organic, which I found incredibly ironic, because is the majority of your sales organic now? Nope. Right? Like they want to just to be content to not advertise. They want to just let organic traffic come to them, and then they want to turn around and they want to charge us to be able to promote. Another question that someone had on there, and this is the first time, I forget what the question was. I think it was about competition. And Jamie mentioned about Temu and Shein and how they've been spending so much money on advertising. And I think he kind of talked a little bit more about the organic traffic and how they're not advertising and they don't see they don't want to do that. But he mentioned something about how they're not in direct competition with eBay, and I would agree. And he said something about low ASP. So he was basically saying they're low ASP. But this is the first time that I've actually heard what could be construed as eBay maybe not wanting lower ASP items on the platform. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. The last question, this is actually the first question. I talked to these out of order. One of the questions was if they could elaborate on how they plan to get their GMV to go up. Jamie talked a lot and he didn't say a whole lot of anything. He didn't even actually answer that question. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you're having troubles on the platform right now, it's probably going to get worse. I mean, this call, in my opinion, is probably the wake up call that sellers need to be like, you know what, this isn't going to get any better. Not in any time soon. In fact, Biff, I'm going to quote you, paraphrasing. He said that eBay's probably not kind of going to be in trouble earnings wise until they start to see a decline in promoted listings revenue quarter over quarter. And at that point, they will have reached kind of like a saturation point. Then they will be in trouble. I mean, one could say that they're just going to replace that with another fee, but the truth of the matter is there's finite margins that sellers have. So unless there's a scenario where there is just a rotating amount of new sellers coming in, and in theory, this could be how eBay looks at this, is that, you know, they have a seller base now. They know that every year you've got some people leaving and other people coming in, and maybe they just think that they can keep this. Think of the. I don't know why I'm thinking of like a pig on a spit and it's turning. Think of the sellers on that, and then some leave, and then more come on, and this is the matrix that's eBay, right? It's like they take from sellers until they can't take anymore, until the seller determines that enough is enough, and then they leave the platform completely. Meanwhile, in eBay's mind, more sellers are just coming in all the time. But the thing is, and we've talked about this, is to me it feels like the entry point for new sellers to come in and actually be competitive and be able to be profitable in an area where they're going to be coming in and they're going to have to promote. Like, think about it, in a couple years, you can't just, 2% is not going to be the minimum anymore. And what's the suggested promotion rate going to be in 2 to 3 years? It might be 30% for all we know. Can somebody come in and pay 13, 14, 15% final value fees and 30% in promoted listings and actually, be profitable? No, they can't. And so like I was talking to a viewer the other day, and I was playing devil's advocate, and I was thinking, like, is eBay, are they even hurt by people cross-listing, right? Because people leave comments all the time about how, eBay does this democratic distribution of sales. Look at your sales, look at your traffic, look at your impressions. They all stay pretty the same. In fact, in an upcoming video, I'm going to be taking a look at my page views and just show you how uncanny and how consistent it is, and how It's clearly manipulation. It's clearly like, okay, this is what you get. You're not going to get any more plus or minus 10%. Just be happy with that. So this democratic distribution, it's almost as if eBay has an endless amount of buyers, but it's the sellers that's the problem. And so they just kind of pick and choose who gets what sales. It sounds very complicated. It's hard for me to wrap my head around that. So do they even care? Do they even care if, people are cross-listing? Do they even care if sellers are leaving? Maybe they actually want, maybe they don't even need this many sellers. And the only thing good in having a large seller base is that these sellers who have stores, and then they're gonna get the store fees for that. Another thing that I was thinking about on the call, and maybe this is just me, maybe this is the ego part of my looking at it, because I'm a seller. You're a seller, most likely, if you're watching this channel. You hear about the buyers, you hear about the enthusiastic buyers, you hear about the magical innovations that are happening. AI is not going anywhere. In fact, AI is going to be more and more. I don't like it. I don't like AI, to be honest with you. I don't even like Alexa. I won't even let one of those in my house. But you hear about eBay, you hear about the platform, GMV. You know what you never hear about on these calls are the sellers. You never hear anybody talk about the sellers. And if you think about it, again, sellers versus buyers, who's more important? How about us be equally important? I mean, I have a bias, because as a seller, if we didn't put stuff on the platform, eBay would not exist. Like, bottom line, they wouldn't exist. And sellers are also buyers. And yet, sellers are abused, not treated with any sort of respect. In fact, sometimes contempt. I think in general, sellers generally feel not appreciated from eBay. I think that's a pretty universal statement. I mean, you've got people out there that think eBay is the greatest. And to be honest with you, at one time, I probably thought that as well. Or I probably didn't have an opinion either way, because, it wasn't, they hadn't mistreated me up to the point of not that they mistreat me so much now, but there are things that they do that I feel would be construed as mistreatment. April 1st. That was mistreatment of the highest degree that eBay could have done to its seller base. But maybe they just don't care, because it really starts to seem that way. It really just seems like they don't have any fear of ever running out of new sellers coming to the platform. So that was one thought that I had with somebody that I was speaking with too this week. So I just wanted to show you, here's the chart of the promoted listings quarter by quarter, with now being at 393 million. I don't know why that number. And I think the percentage increase was 20% from here to here, because as these numbers get bigger, the percentage is going to be lower. So there's that. $4.2 billion. So in conclusion, I was speaking with a viewer this week, and they said they had a very insightful point, that the combination of bleeding buyers, the losing of sellers, I would also add the competition in the e-commerce platform in general, and the economy. It's down, it's great, depends on what lens you look at, but people are definitely, inflation, all of these things. it remains to be seen if Jamie's vision, Jamie's plan, that he is he so confidently says we are on the right path. We are, you know, the vision that I set out, we're implementing it, and it is the right path. No matter what, like I get this picture of him having this mentality that it's his way or we're sinking. You know, it's like he'll go down with this ship no matter what, because he has no risk. You got to remember, the guy has no risk. If he got fired today, he's getting, I don't know what it was, 40 or 50 million dollars as a parting gift, right? So this is all just, you know, we get very excited and passionate and frustrated because this is our lives. This is what we do. To Jamie, this is just a video game. This is AI, magical innovations. You know, you know, then he just starts over again, right? Like have a bad quarter, you know. It's just a game to him, and I think that's my frustration, as are a lot of other people's frustrations. Is, you know, when you start changing the game without giving us any heads up, for people who have devoted, you know, decades into this platform, it leaves a bad taste in our mouths. And, you know, I think diversification, I'm just going to preach that, and I'm going to live by it. And promoted listings, it's the cash cow. They're just going to milk sellers for, you know, it took what, 4 years to get to 4 billion, 2019. So a little over 4 years. I predict they'll get to the next 4 billion. Well, they're at 4.2. I think they'll get 3.8 billion in half as much time. After that, I think that's when they're going to start to run into some problems. Now let's keep an eye on the stock and see how it responds over the next couple of days. And I'll be on Primo's show tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern, and we can all have a therapy session, chat. I'm looking forward to hearing your guys' views on the earnings call, on whatever, you know, wherever you all get your information. I'm interested to hear, you know, like what Benny's perspective is on this. I know he was paying attention to the Etsy call. I got your message. I haven't really read it all. But all right, guys, happy Tuesday. I almost thought this was Wednesday. As a reseller, do you guys get the days confused as well? Anyhow, happy selling. Talk to you guys soon. Like, subscribe, do all the things that help out this channel. If this is the kind of information that resonates with you. Peace and blessings, guys, and we will talk to you soon. All right, I sold this little Hindu goddess Ganesh. I don't know what it's made out of. It's heavy. It's like a tile. Got this out of the massive book lot last summer. And what's cool about this order is it sold local. I'd listed it on eBay and it got sucked into a sale. So it was currently sitting at $23 on eBay. And I had it for $25 local. Somebody paid. And they were like, hey, can you drop this off at any CIBC and just put my name on it and it'll go through internal mail? I didn't even know you could do that. And yeah, so I mean, had this sold on eBay, I probably would have only gotten like 19 and change. And this is part of my new strategy of like things that I think will not just sell on eBay, but also like I'm thinking, you know, this is small enough, but someone might want it for their home, put it on Marketplace, put it on Craigslist, and you never know. Maybe you can avoid those fees that eBay is so eager to charge us.